Good evening and welcome back to Football League World TV. We are continuing our Fans Voice series this evening with a focus on Stoke City and all things going on at the Bet365 Stadium. All things Stoke City on the agenda then, and I'm delighted to welcome Ben onto the show, a Stoke City fan. Ben, how are you getting on this evening?
Evening, mate. I'm just glad that this didn't happen yesterday because it just would have been sweltering. God help anybody that was on yesterday. But yeah, I'm all right otherwise. Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, man. I'm in total agreement with you there. I'm sure that in a couple of weeks we'll be moaning about the weather for different reasons, but looking forward to getting into some Stoke City chat this evening, Ben.
Yes, I like this time of season because obviously I've had a couple of months off of even thinking about Stoke to some degree, and then doing these sorts of previews for the season. It's like blowing the cobwebs a little bit away, and then I just remember like how bad last season ended, and but it's new season optimism to a degree, of course.
Yeah, to a degree. We'll kick things off then with a little bit of positive news, and again, quite timely really. It's broken within the last hour from John Percy at the Telegraph that Dwight Gayle is set to join Stoke City on a permanent deal. He's completed the first part of his medical, arriving from Newcastle United. Ben, initial reaction to that news?
And it literally is an initial reaction. This come out the blue, really. We were due to sign Gayle about 4 years ago when we first came down to the Championship, and we thought then that he would take us up. Instead, he went to West Brom, and he very nearly, or did he take them up? I think he might have taken them up. And we got Benicophobe instead, and we know how that turned out. 4 years later, that's the only season that he's played. That season for West Brom, he's had 3 years on the bench for Newcastle. I think this is genuinely like old habits die hard with Stoke. Like we've signed players like this for a long time, for the last 4 years or so now, and we're supposed to be transitioning into this younger team. We do need some older heads in there. We do need some experience, and Gayle will bring that. I just hope that he's going to be match fit when he does play for us, because if he does, I think he'll score a fair few goals. But it's just keeping him fit, and the other players at the club that we do have haven't had the best goal scoring record in last season. Jacob Brown did really well last season. Tyrese Campbell was on hot form the year before that. But I think if we're going to take ourselves seriously, we need another one. And I think Stoke are expecting to sign another one that will raise morale in the club, was said by the local paper yesterday. So if Gayle doesn't raise morale, it'll be interesting to see who would.
Yeah, you sort of touched on it there. He's a goal scorer at Championship level. 2016-17, he struck 23 times for Newcastle. 18-19 the season that I think you've just been talking about there, Ben. He struck 24 times for West Brom, and I think they reached the playoff semi-finals that year. He's 33 in October, though, so it's a fair few years since then. Do you think he's still going to be able to cut it in the Championship?
I think this is the problem. The way we play relies on sort of maybe counter-attack and fast-moving football, sort of quick transitions. When we don't do that, we are very methodical. We haven't got that incisive pass in us. Yeah, he's not a striker to lead the line for me in like a number 9 way, which is a little bit concerning considering we don't really have one at the moment that I'd hang my hat on. But it sounds daft to me saying that considering his goal scoring record in the Championship. So I think if he ages well in the Championship, which he may well do, if he's managed to cling on to a little bit of pace, and knows how to get in the box and play against these defenders that are going to press him now and also, yeah, he may well score. I'd like to see a 15-goal season from him.
Before we continue looking forwards, then I'm going to pick your brains on the season gone by. November, December time, playoff push looked like it could be on the cards for Stoke. They looked in a really strong position, floating inside the top 6, and I think they were up to 4th at one point in November as well. In your eyes, Ben, what kind of went wrong last season for Michael O'Neill's side?
Injuries went wrong, and it's deja vu from the season prior. Tyrese Campbell got injured the season prior, and it just completely derailed our playoff push. I think we were second at one point, and we just never recovered from a talismanic figure not being in the team anymore and not being able to replace him in January. And then this season just gone, Harry Sousa got injured, Nick Powell got injured, even players like Jordan Thompson, Joe Bursick got injured. But it was Sousa for me, who, for my money, is one of the best centre-backs in the league. And we didn't know how to replace his really unique abilities, of him being so tall and have such a presence in the air, a great pass of the ball. So many times he saved us with a last-ditch tackle as well. We didn't really have the player to compete with that. We had Danny Bart, who went to Sunderland. We had Phil Jagielka, who's 40 now. We couldn't replace Harry Sousa, and we just leaked too many stupid goals. And then, as well as I mentioned, Nick Powell was injured, Jordan Thomas was injured, Romain Sawyers was injured as well for a long period, and we had nothing going for us in midfield. We scored goals from like set pieces or things like that, but we had no real creativity. We tried that in January. We brought in Lewis Baker, who did score a fair few goals, but he's not a creative player per se. Jaden Philodine Badace we brought in, he got injured, and although looked really bright in spells, particularly at first, didn't really give us what we needed towards the end of the season. We just ran out of steam. Injuries will take their toll, not only for the big players that we missed, but also the quantity of them as well, and the players that were playing. Some of them, Stephen Fletcher was getting on, Mario Vrancic was getting on, James Chester well past his years, and they just couldn't keep up playing the 30 games they did from January onwards. It's a shame, but we need to learn from these lessons, and O'Neill needs to learn from these lessons too, not only in his tactics and the way that he was using these players, clearly getting them injured, doing better in a January transfer window as well, because that's twice now. In the season prior, he brought in Ravi Matanda and Jack Clark, and they did very little for us as well. So it's partially something we could have helped, but also just very, very unlucky as well.
I mean, there was quite a little bit of speculation right on the back end of the season and sort of into the start of the summer about O'Neill's future as Stoke boss. Did you ever kind of feel that it was maybe right for him to move on or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a period, I think March time it was, and we played 5 of the bottom 6, and we didn't win any of them. and you think then, not only were the results bad, he threw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of losing all sense of his style of football. He was playing either 1 up front or 4 up front at any one time. We weren't a counter-attacking team or a possession team or a set-piece team that would sit deep. We were nothing. He would just throw everything at it to try and get a result, and that is a sign of a manager who is drowning. And he was. I think he's fortunate that in April he turned it around, got us a few wins on the bounce, or had a very good vein of form anyway, beating some good teams in there. And we finished mid-table, which is possibly what we could have expected with the injuries we did have. So I think, again, he's very unlucky with the injuries and whatever else, and his signings not working out in January, particularly as he would have wanted. But at the same time, he is rather tactically robust in a game. He can change system before a game, no matter what, but he seems to be very persistent in game, and I think that is what's costing him and Stoke at the moment. And this really does feel like a last chance saloon for him. Stoke have talked about this 3.5-4 year plan that O'Neill has had in mind since he's been here. He's about 3 years into that now, so you would say if we don't get anywhere near promotion in the next season, then it could be curtains for him.
We're in the thick of the summer transfer window, so it'd be rude not to discuss transfers. We'll start with some of the exits at Stoke and high-profile ones of the likes of Joe Allen, Tom Ince, Benica Fobi. They were some of the most high-profile names to leave the club. We spoke off air a little bit just before we came live about starting to feel free from that summer of when Gary Rowett spent an absolute fortune after the Premier League. Do you kind of feel like that, Ben?
Absolutely, I do. We're not quite seeing the benefits of it yet. We need just one more season just to tidy the FFE books, so we're not going to be spending huge amounts this summer. But having said that, there'll be a little bit of wiggle room going forwards, and a lot of people complained about the investment of the owners of the last couple of seasons. They're wealthy and willing. They've just not been allowed to with FFP, and it's because they took that gamble with Gary Rowett and Nathan Jones. Nathan Jones, has done a wonderful job with Luton, but he spent a hell of a lot of money at Stoke. I think he spent $9.5 million on Sam Vokes. It was insanity. We let him go to free to Wickham at the end of it. It was very much short-term thinking. We thought that we were going to blitz the league first time of asking, and we didn't. And we are paying the price for it now, and we are turning into, what anyone could only expected us to have been, which is a mid-table championship team. It's lucky that we've got a lot of young players who will develop, and we'll either A, sell for a lot of money, or B, will develop with us and will make us a better team. But we really are waiting for the end of this FFP window to come. It's going to be another 12 months. And I think that's unlucky for O'Neill again, because, with a bit more investment behind him, he would have been able to pick up better players than the 32-year-olds on free transfers that he's been allowed to get. But it's players like Benica Fobi who've cost us. He came in, he scored 8 goals under Gary Rowett and was never seen again. Joe Allen, for as much as, a great player for various clubs, and you could argue a great player for Stoke as well, he was on about £50,000 a week and clearly was not the sort of player that can take us up on his own and should not be paid that sort of money. That's no fault of Joe Allen's. That's the fault of Stoke paying that sort of money and relying on, keeping him around and building a team around him, which we couldn't. Tom Ince as well, for as much as Stoke fans will have bemoaned his time here, he did very little, to be honest with you. I wouldn't have said he necessarily didn't try hard. I like Reading fans will say that as well. He did try. He just lost all confidence, and people knew how to mark him, and he didn't have a coach good enough to get the best out of him. So a fresh start was needed, because we and the owners know this. They messed up by going with the strategy that they went with. They should have, took their time, invested, and maybe tried to have gone up second, third time of asking, because it's cost them 4 years now.
So here we are now then, and there's been some movement in terms of the incomings. You mentioned there the picking up of free agents like Aidan Flint, Josh Laurent, two really well established championship players, Liam McCarron, Harry Clark, and Gavin Kilkenny, other players added to the squad. How do you feel about the business that's been done so far then?
There's sort of two sides to it, as you suggested. There's Flint, who, perhaps is past his peak years, but seems to have done all right for Cardiff and scored a fair few goals from as well, which is good, because we've been missing a few of them in the defensive positions in recent years. Josh Laurent as well, who, did exceptionally at Reading by accounts from there, and no player's perfect, nor they would be if they were in a relegation battle last season. But he'll be a good replacement for Joe Allen, I feel, and a more sustainable replacement for Joe Allen too. Completely different physically, obviously, but in that sort of winning the ball back from midfield and then using it again. So we needed a bit of reliability, and we got it with some of the players that have gone. You mentioned those very experienced players, but then Stoke's building a very young team, and it's players like Harry Clark, who's come on loan from Arsenal, Liam McCarron, who we bought from Leeds, and Kilkenny, who, for the first 15 games at Bournemouth was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And he was only, 19, 20 then? Yeah, they might not be here forever. Clark and Kilkenny are obviously on loan, and McCarron may not be one for now. He may be one for the future. He might be a backup to Josh Tymon. But this is more of the mentality that I wanted from Stoke. When we came down, I was mentioning about how much money we spent. I wish that we'd have, took the good squad we had and built good, hungry players that wanted to play for Stoke around it, because that is exactly what all of these players wanted to do. They've all got something to prove. Harry Clark wants to break in at Arsenal. Then McCarron didn't get through at Leeds and wants to break in here. Gavin Kilkenny had a taste of life at Bournemouth and got it taken away from him, and they just signed players. So they've all got something to prove, and Stoke will benefit from that. And any business, if they do Dwight Gayle, again, another experienced head, any more business needs to be along that. Some experience will be nice, but hunger, that's what we need. Absolute hunger to prove themselves one way or another.
That's the sort of mentality of the player that you want to see come in. Then positionally, where do you think O'Neill needs to strengthen from here?
So if I'm being in terms of logistics, I said we needed a number 9 before today. Looks like with Dwight Gayle we got one. Sounds like Stoke are interested in bringing another one, which less more of a need and more of a wanting to raise morale around fans and that at the club. High profile player. That'd be good. I think we need a left-sided centre back as well, because our option at the moment is the likes of Morgan Fox, who's fine, but he's the left back really, and has looked relatively uncomfortable at centre back at times. And we've got failed Jagielka in that position as well, who is not a long-term option by any stretch. So we need a left-sided centre back. Somebody like, if we're talking somebody that's been released, like a Naby Sarr or something like that. I'm not saying he will come in specifically, but something along those lines anyway. And then in terms of want, I'd like a deputy to Harry Clark, or someone who will challenge Harry Clark. He's young, and may not work out for Stoke, and I don't want to be left in a position where we're relying on. We've got Demiarco Dehaney, who quite simply is a backup at Stoke and is not really good enough for the Championship, in my opinion. And we've also got Tom Sparrow as well, but he is a youth player. He belongs in the under-21s and he needs time. So someone experienced at right back, like a Cyrus Christie or something, would be great. And then someone versatile up front, if they can play on either wing or as a number 10 or something like that, like a difference maker, a chance creator, someone to break the lines and make something happen, get it off your seat. That sort of player I'd really like. The example last season was Jaden Philogene-Badace, and if he came in again on loan, that'd be perfect. But, someone exciting, again, with a big point to prove, somebody just different who, opposition fans and managers will not know how to play against.
Let's look ahead to the season then. It's just around the corner now. I'll just run you through Stoke's first opening month or so. Millwall away, Blackpool at home, Huddersfield away, Middlesbrough and Sunderland at home, Blackburn away, Swansea at home. Quite a tough first 7 fixtures on paper. Ben, how key do you think it is from Michael O'Neill that he has a decent start?
I think in terms of turning the tide of the fans, he needs at least 10 points from those first 21 available. That's not even a big ask, in my opinion, with 4 home games in there, I think. And some certainly beatable opposition in Blackpool, Sunderland, Swansea. No offense to those teams, but I think we did beat teams like that last season. Games against Middlesbrough is going to be tough. Huddersfield, with the transfers they made or haven't made, we don't really know what we're going to get by that point. Millwall, always hard to play against away from home. So by totting up what I thought, I think we're going to get 11 out of 21, which is like 1.83 per game. So, you're looking at decent form with that run. If we can extrapolate that for the rest of the season, you'll be at the right end of the table. But it's just crucial if we can just blow one of those teams away, if we can win 3 or 4-0 on one of those first 7 games, the whole mood amongst Stoke fans will be so much better. Because I think the whole feeling at the moment is just sort of resignation almost. We know that O'Neill's going to be in charge, whether you like it or not. I personally, I'm perfectly happy to give him a chance, but I think, the board will make a decision, if not by Christmas, definitely towards the end of the season. And if he doesn't get off to a good start, he's only going to have the fans on his back all through, this year and then into next if he doesn't recover. And we just don't need another season like that, particularly with the young squad that I've mentioned. They need support behind them. And, the managers just can't expect fans to turn up and be that supportive, be that happy. We can try our best, but lose a lot of them opening games, and the tone will be set, and we could turn it around and finish in the top 6. But after losing all 7 of those games, but they need a huge turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, how much sort of hope do you give Stoke of actually pushing on into the top 6 this coming season then?
And anybody that sort of predicted this position before for Stoke, or like anybody that's like put Stoke in their accumulators will know we just let you down, right? For the last 4 years, we just let you down. And every season I've said, I think first time we came down, I said we got blow the league away first place. Second, I thought, oh, okay, Nathan Jones, good manager, good squad, yeah, second place. Third season, yeah, all right, top 6 maybe. Yeah, we should get top 6. Last season, I was like, just give us top half. Top half would be great. We've not achieved any of that. We finish in bottom half every season, and I can't get away from the fact we're just going to do it again. For whatever reason, something's going to happen. We're going to have a stupid injury again, or some signings aren't going to work out, or we go on such a poor run and it derails us. Something's going to happen where we start well and we tail off, because that is just Stoke, and we finish somewhere like 13th or something like that. I think we are more than capable, this squad, of challenging for the top 6. If you think of like a Millwall last season or something like that, we've got the squad of being able to absolutely be similar to the position that they were in. Middlesbrough last season, I think they've improved massively this season, but I don't think we're too dissimilar to somebody like that from last season. I think it's their manager that's made a huge difference, and a lot of people point to O'Neill for that difference. But yeah, my heart says, yeah, top 6. My head says bottom half again, and it'll be next season where, with the financial freedom that we've been promised, and potentially changing manager, if we really do get no more promise and the same old rubbish again, yeah, next season will be the season. But this season, I wouldn't be surprised if we were just mid-table, nice quiet season. Nobody will be talking about us by the time February comes around. That'd be nice in terms of not being in a relegation battle, but it'd be really excited to be in the top 6 chase.
That concludes this evening's look at Stoke City then. Thanks to anybody that's joined us across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And of course, thanks to you as well, Ben, for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, always. As I say, it's nice to be cool, and it's nice to be talking back about Stoke again. I'm sure I'll be doing more and more of this going forward for the rest of the season. Just nice to have football back. I can't wait to go back. It's like, what, 2 weeks away or 2.5 weeks away to our first home game. Buzzing, really, really buzzing. Genuinely, just despite the mood of the fans, just so glad to be going back.
Absolutely. Best of luck to you moving into the season. Then tomorrow on Football League World TV, we're looking ahead with the fans' voice again. Plenty of shows coming up. I think there's as many as 4 on tomorrow. So please do tune in for that and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. We'll see you again soon.